Alrighty, so I'm going to talk a little bit about publishing and Wired Magazine and where we're kind of at in 2014 and where we see ourselves in the future, because the whole point of today is kind of looking at how design shapes the future, and publishing's in a pretty interesting place. So design is experience, not image. So this is something we've been thinking a lot about lately, right? Design with a lowercase d rather than a capital D. It's the experience of how we give our content and how we share our content with our audience is so much more important than the graphics that are on our page. And typically when we think about magazines, we think, okay, there are 150 pages, 8.5 by 11, bound together, I get it once a month, and that's it. But we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our audience, we owe it to our content, we owe it to our content creators to give a more full, realized picture of the story. So if we think about that, storytelling is experience, not the medium. So as magazine makers, we're storytellers. We're not graphic designers and editors. We're bigger than that. We owe it to these stories we tell to give it to you guys the way that you want to take it in, the way you want to experience it in the most pure form of that. So I want to use an example of our current issue, which is on newsstands. It's our first music issue in 7 years. So music is an interesting place for Wired to tackle because people typically look at us as a technology magazine. And as technology becomes invisible, which I'm sure, Roberto, you're going to talk a lot more about later, that barrier kind of disappears, right? So we get to just experience things right in front of us and actually get to be part of the moment more than the floodgate to get to that moment. So let's look at this. We shot Questlove on our current cover. So we hired this guy, Pari Dukovic, amazing photographer, and he's got a simple brief. Let's get Questlove in a room. Let's play some just killer 70s music. Let's get this guy vibing out, and let's catch him like falling in love with his favorite song. That simply, that purely. And you know, a tip of the hat to you, Len. I think that's a lot of the stuff you guys were trying to do, sort of in that Levi's campaign, like, just capture a moment. So we got that. We pair it with some typography that's kind of similar, a good feeling. James Victoria did this for us, and you put it together, and there you go. You got a magazine, right? You got a cover, you got a feature, and typically you'd be done. Boom. All right, next issue. We can't do that anymore. We gotta tell a story, and we gotta look at the story across every facet and let those barriers drop. Really champion the experience. That's what we're kind of have to do. We're not allowed to not do that. We owe it to you guys. So how do we do that? We make a digital edition, right? Which, in my opinion, is kind of the coolest version of Wired because you get the beauty of the editorial design and photography and typography and everything, but you get to add the level of multimedia and interactivity, plus the dual orientation. You've got a web version, which has extended photo galleries. We got the videos. The cool thing about the web version is that barrier of design, and this was going to sound kind of crazy coming from a creative director, is gone. It doesn't matter. We come to you rather than you come to us. You can take it through your reader or your Feedly or what have you, and just get that content in the way that best suits you and in your pocket. Speaking of your pocket, the whole app market, right? How can you experience a music issue on a page? You can't. So let's have Questlove actually make you these curated playlists for every decade, and let's partner with Beats and Spotify and bring you the best version of that. I'm gonna have the audio up on these next couple ones, dude. To social, right? Tell more of the story.
I'm the guy that will play What If a Fool Believes by the Doobie Brothers, which is not a club song, but you hear it and then it just brings out the karaoke fool in you. Like there's no feeling like that ever.
That's a charming dude, right? That guy, man. So anyhow, you're telling more of the story. You didn't get that story when you read the magazine. You didn't get the story in the digital edition. So it's really giving you the full picture, giving you the experience of what we're trying to tell you across everything and breaking down those barriers. So last but not least, we grow from a magazine to a media brand. That's what you have to do with storytelling, right? So all the way to TV, which we've been stepping into.
Case today that I bring is like product that they are not yet here, right? We live in a fantastic, exciting time, right? We see that as days goes by, the digital is living and walking away from the screen and pervading all our life across every single aspect, right? Just in the last year, we started to wear devices on our wrist. very, very soon they will end up in cars, in your house, in clothes, in your socks. God knows where next, right? So I want to present you a little bit of the walk of how it's going to impact us as a thinker, as a creative thinker, right? And how is it going to shuffle completely and shift the way we traditionally think about creating product and creating experiences, right? And connecting with the user. So, welcome to, this is kind of today the Internet of few things, right? Probably you heard this term, the Internet of Things. Like now we have a car that kind does really, really hard with some trouble, talks with our mobile devices, right? And we have a tablet that kind of trying to bring some books inside, and we do a lot of work for that one, right? We really love the experience a lot of the time. We do a lot of work. The devices do very, very little, right? But very soon, the problem is getting very big. So we kind of estimated 50 billion devices talking one to each other, or 50 billions not yet educated devices. They're going to talk one to each other, and they will create noise and noise and noise, right? And this is our role as a designer, as a brand director, as company, just try to make sense of this chaos that is coming out, right? This exciting chaos, right? And then when there is a problem to solve, we are here. We have job security, right? So, and why this has changed? I want to take you a little bit through the step by step. But this is an example of consumer electronics, right? That probably this was my example. What I learned at school. This is like, oh, the model is very, very easy, right? Shrink it, make it faster, make it prettier, put everything in one pocket. You're done. We're done. We get it. We are there, right? We are there. It looks like, oh my God, we did everything. But right now, there's this new verge coming out, right? This in terms of like, I was speaking before with Billy, it's like, I'm pretty sure, like, as we look back some videos on YouTube of the 80s, it's like, oh my God, look at that jacket I was wearing. That was funny. Look at the hair. Then we look back at the last 10 years and we say, do you remember we were all sitting down on the table and we were all looking at the screen and not talking one to each other? That was kind of weird, right? And so, and we're there, right? And we're there because, like, again, the focus has changed, right? We've been taught at school, we've been taught by company that this guy here is the king, right? I bought it, I create this beautiful advertising campaign, I seduced you to buy it, right? And then goodbye, we're done, right? Until the next one, I'll seduce the other things. But now it's completely changed. This guy is not anymore the king. And if and this is the picture, right? If you bring so many kings to the table, we say, oh my God, what's going on? So, and this is what we need to, and we heard today, is like what really matters, right? That this is us, right? What really matters, and it's us in our journey throughout the day, throughout the months, how we talk with friends, how we walk across the screen, right? And then I see it's like as us, as like I grew up as starting in Milan as working in fashion design and furniture design, the classical print and everything. I saw myself moving in the digital space and moving again. And right now we are here and we're trying to design the in between, right? No one is designing the in between. When I say in between, is like when I drive in my car and I drop the car and enter the house, very soon those that will talk together, right? And we have to design those more intangible aspect of the brand. Is not anymore. It's still about the logo, the passion, the story, the storytelling, but it's about also those experiences, right? So when I say it's like what we need to care and what we need to change in the way that we think and sharpen and rethink our tools, rethink how we are organized inside the corporate, right? Taking down barriers we were talking about, right? It's just like it's not anymore the web guys and the print guys and the product guys, but it's just like let's put the consumer at the center. Let's go through their journey. Let's see at every single touch point how can we be relevant and not create noise, because another chat we had before is like it's almost like we're at a point, and this is like coming from Nike too. It's like we were discussing inside Nike. It's like almost that today with digital and with the possibility for people want to exchange what they felt about the brand, what they feel about the product. Almost like traditional advertisement becomes like the price that you have to pay for a bad product, right? Because a good product just goes by itself, right? It just goes by itself. It's just crazy. Like I'm fascinated, and I present like a bit of the things. I'm fascinated in my mind is like if I project myself 5 years back and I think about Airbnb, pretty much of you probably use Airbnb or using Airbnb, is like what a beautiful example of disruptive design experience, right? If I bet anyone, and I do this exercise on myself, is like, do you want to invest money in a company that will give your house with all your belongings inside to somebody else coming from the other side of the world? You say, you're crazy. I mean, no one will do that one, right? I will find my house trashed. And you look at it, and we all love it, right? We all love Uber. We all love other things. And this is what we are called. We are called to design those things that I bet that a lot of you have all those ideas, right? That we call company to run faster, to say, please, just solve me that problem, right? I bring it like this one here as a use case. Is like, the Jawbone app. I was part of the team of and driving the user experience and design inside Jawbone. It's like how challenging compared to the traditional way of doing design, because normally you design a product and you have to look at the form factor of a step count. What is the shape of a step counter, right? This is the problem that we had over here. Is like people wear it every day. Women, they're very careful about the combination with colors, and I don't want to wear it in the night because I'm wearing something else, right? And we have a total new set of problem, right, that we need to solve. And when there is a problem, there is always an opportunity. That is, for the designer, is where we need to do the work, right? And past the device, and on purpose, this design doesn't have a screen, right? It's like what people have already in their pockets, right? We have millions of screens. Like, I bet everyone has an iPad, has an iPhone, has another things at home, and everything's like. And so, how do we tap? How do we bring that experience in the relevant moment? As you wake up in the morning, we tell you that was a good step, that was a good sleep, right? Try to do this one. That was a very bad sleep. But try to be careful about the carbs today, because your body will require a lot of carbs, right? And then you find where brand right now, where they start to transform themselves in again, I say, come from Nike. Nike is you can boil it down. It's not that one is a brand. Nike is a brand, but it's like at the end the product is shoes. But now Nike is one of top app developer and wearable and digital device and healthcare. It's like, wow. And Jawbone is entering in this example I was telling you. Jawbone becomes a content creator, of which you have to have content of people and scientists. This says like, oh, look at some of the data. How can we give you insight and meaningful insight? And you see just like, again, this blur and this exciting time of almost like everything that we know, we have to reconsider it, right? Yeah. Again, the incredible has started. I love actually better. Hold still your line. The future, the future is living. That is, it is beautiful. And we are here all like, I cannot be more excited than today. Just like we have to design it, right? Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Right, so my dad said never start a talk or a date with an apology. I'm really sorry what I'm going to show you next. Take that either way. So I was asked to do this talk, and they said, look, just show your project. It's fantastic. Talk about the brand, the project, the design component. Obviously, it's the multi-platform, because that's a massive buzzword, and execution. That's great. It's also dependent on the type of company you work for. Because up until Monday, I worked for this company, and which is great, but they're fairly big, and I think you've heard of them. They're going to be very, very big in the future, and they don't tell anybody their secrets, because their secrets are years and years and years and years out in the future. And so I've been working with a project with them for the last almost 2 years now, which is the future of television. So I thought, oh, it'd be a great place to share the future of television. So they said, okay, you can share some stuff, very, very prescriptive about what you can share. And on Monday, they sold me to Verizon. So I've only been in this job 3.5 days, so asking my new CEO if I could show the project that nobody ever has seen in the world, they said no. So, I'm sorry. Now, it was going to be good as well, so I thought we'd do something instead. Because I was thinking why they said no, and it's like when you have secrets and when you talk about the future, the way to change the future is you don't do it from a standing start. You don't do it from here. You describe, you invent, you design a future, and you stand in it. And you stand in it way, way off, and then you drag the present towards you. It's not just haphazard. You know, there's the old story of, you know, if you don't know where you're going, then any road gets there. And these massive, massive companies, you know, Intel, 96% of all the servers in the world is Intel. Verizon, 2/3 of all data on the internet goes through their pipes. You know, like, these are huge companies, and they have huge responsibilities of standing way in the future and dragging either the problems or the present towards them for the benefit of man. Not how I remember some technology, which was a little bit haphazard, which could change the whole of mankind. And I was talking about the story of the Manhattan Project when they first invented the atomic bomb. And they were in deserts not that far from here, and there were 7 designers, 7 engineers, and they were going to set off the first atomic bomb. And they were talking amongst each other, and 4 out of 3, let's just say that again, 4 out of 3 thought if they set off the first atomic bomb, that it would set fire to the atmosphere. 3 of them thought it wouldn't, so the best way to find out, obviously, is to set it off. And you're like, no, I'm no mathematician, but 4 out of 3 is the wrong side of bad. It's like, this is technology just without culture, without thought. And that could change the whole of mankind because we would be basically crisp. So I was thinking, okay, what's other enormous projects? What enormous projects that normally are so faceless that they don't engage with us as a culture, that you could have these mad scientists going, 4 out of 3, let's blow up the world. And so I found the biggest one I could, which was this one. And this is the Chinese landing on the moon. So this is Chang'e 3, which was a Chinese mythology god who lived on the moon. And you'd think, okay, China's going to send a robot to the moon. This has got to be great. When's the last time we sent anything to the moon? Anybody got an idea? 69, close. 1973, May 1973, the Russians sent a rover to the moon. So I was 1.5, and that was the last thing that's ever been up there. So let's consider how they changed the world from then to now. So, number 1, the brand. Well, the brand would have been, back in the Russian days, we go to the moon. Now, China, let's just say it's a communist state, how did they brand the going to the moon? So they used social media. They had a competition. What should we call this whole exercise? The winner was Jade Rabbit, because Jade Rabbit was the pet of Chang'e. And so the whole project, for the discovery part of the project, was Jade Rabbit. And suddenly it gave it a face. So you can go through the project. This is when it first started, 2002. This is the design phase. There was obviously, the design component. We're going to go from here to here to here. You could substitute going to the moon to selling jeans and jawbones. They all have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a massive result. This obviously is the multiple platform components, perfect for this talk because there's multiple platform rockets. The execution, they actually did it, which is great. So this set off, this is the 1st of December, 2013. It took them till 14 days later, it actually landed on the surface of the moon. So here it is just touching down. This is the execution part of the project. Obviously, it rolled out. I really wanted to have some comparison of size because this is like the size of half a car. It's not a small project. It's an amazing amount of technology. That's like 12 years in the future. They're predicting what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to need. And the surface of that lunar module is 100 degrees C on the top, and at the bottom, it's 0 degrees C. It's below freezing. You know, the amount of constraints that they have to go through as a piece of technology is just absolutely incredible. And you get these beautiful images coming back, accidental shots by scientists. There should be a book on this, which is just like things we haven't seen again since, 1973. But the interesting thing is this bit. This is when they had to put the module asleep, because a lunar day and a lunar night is 14 days. So on the 25th of December, they powered everything down, and it's going to go to sleep as the moon goes dark for 14 days. And they weren't too sure if it was going to wake up. Now, if it had been back in the Soviet days, 14 days later, it is dead, it does not turn on. You're like, okay. But this was not then. This has a brand. This has a name. This is Jade Rabbit. And Jade Rabbit didn't wake up. And China went crazy. Like, Jade Rabbit's not... People were praying for Jade Rabbit. There were stories about Jade Rabbit. And after 14 days, slowly but surely, technology gained a face, gained behavior, gained the love of a people that were so proud of what they were doing. It wasn't about technology anymore. It was about this. And maybe you can't read it at the back. It says, I miss you. P.S. It's cold here and I'm very lonely. Which is great. This isn't technology in the future anymore. And I know technology needs a goal, and I'm working in these companies that have ridiculous, 10-year goals to change the whole world. But I think more importantly, it also needs a name, and it needs a life, and more than anything, that purpose, it becomes a human, and it gathers a behavior. And I think technology, if it's divested of any of its culture and of its personality, then we're just those scientists at the Manhattan Project going, yeah, we could burn the world down, or we could actually listen. So that's where I stand. I'm sorry, I can't show you anything.
Man, we opened strong and ended strong, huh? That was great, man. Okay, so I'm looking at the clock here. It's 3:45, so I feel like we'll talk for maybe 10 minutes or so, just off the cuff. And then 10 minutes of if you guys have any questions, whatever you're interested in. I think we're kind of covering a lot here, so you could go you could go the wearables rank, you could go the space, you could ask about China or Russia, you could ask about train trips, you could ask about drummers on the Tonight Show. I mean, there's all sorts of weird stuff you could ask about. So why don't we start this out, Roberto, with you. I know you've got a brand new company, and it seems wildly exciting, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about kind of what you've been into. You've had a pretty incredible path between Nike Plus to Jawbone to this new venture. Maybe you can insight us a little bit.
This aspect of like how my interest has been always like how digital is completely changing the way we live, right? Things, if you think about it, there is always like fundamental truth that nothing has changed, but everything is different, right? We used to take the photos with a film, now we do Instagram, right? We used to lose the music on the tape. Right now we download it on the things, right? And then things are changing. Like, and you see, digital helped us to get faster and faster and better and get more, right? And so my interest right now with this small group of friends, and it's like very dedicated on digital, is helping brand to embrace even more digital and try to understand, especially brand where digital has not yet entered. And when I say digital, it's not a website and an application, right? Right now, almost like you can leapfrog the entire market and just go ahead. What is like, we start to see this like beacon, and as you enter the space, it gets everything reactive on your phone. We understand much better about your context, and the experience is this one here. We're taking, not as a joke, but it's like entering industry like the restaurant, the food, the coffee shop, and try to understand like how can we improve with love that experience, not spreading more technology and annoyance, but just like how can we facilitate and how can remove that aspect of digital always allowed to connect demand and offer very quickly, right? Right on the spot. Like the Uber case is just like pick up, get a service, I'm happy, right? Yeah, that's a bit of what we're up to. Yeah.
I was speaking to you right before this, and he said this to me, looking me straight in the eye, being dead serious. I was, so what have you been working on, man? I'm trying to digitize mozzarella. And he said it in that like perfect, beautiful Italian accent. And I had nothing. It was, challenge taken. Amazing, amazing. Cool. So I guess I'll just kind of go off the cuff here. Len, the Go Forth campaign. I'm probably speaking for the whole crowd here. That was absolutely incredible. Maybe you can give us some insight how that came to be, or what some of your thoughts in spearheading that?
For the last few years, we were trying to break down what marketing is and maybe use some marketing money to do something different. So we'd done a campaign in Braddock, which is one of the poorest towns in America, and we engaged with that crowd, and we spent months and months with them kind of trying to actually manufacture it, to be honest, which couldn't happen because of unions and other things, but the intention was to bring business there and to document it. On a smaller level, we redid their urban farming and connected with them on a very personal level, and spent a couple of years learning and working with this town, which we still engage with. In fact, I got married by the mayor there on the train trip, for sure. But using marketing money to a man, but to, using marketing money in different ways that are more important and really messing up what we're doing here. Like, I wish I had that thing from Men in Black where I could erase our memories about what marketing is and advertising, and we just start from scratch. How are we reaching people? What is the intimate connection? What do we have to actually talk about and sell that's interesting, that's worthwhile? And so it isn't about telling people things anymore. It's really about engaging them and making them part of it, which is exactly what you guys are talking about. And I think humanizing that and pushing a restart on what marketing is and how we use that money is kind of everything. So even that was a more social experiment. This particular year was a more creative one. We wanted to cross-pollinate. We wanted to try to see what happened if we put Alice Waters with Cat Power and Urs Fischer and whoever else was on the train. Everybody was on the train, but some of it was a huge failure. Some of it was a huge success. Some of it was super challenging. The artist Doug Aiken's an old friend of mine. We worked on an Iggy Pop thing together, like he had a vision, I had a vision. Sometimes it came together and sometimes it didn't. I think these case studies are really important to say it's not this perfect packaged thing that always comes out as a glowing case study, yet this was a hugely progressive piece of work that pushed the brand forward and pushed art forward. What is art in the 21st century and how are people seeing it? So if I see a 5-year-old kid in an Ernesto Neto tent with their father saying, "This is really fun, what is this?" Bouncing around on some nylon, that's really interesting to me because this kid has now been exposed to some pretty sophisticated art, whether he knows it or not, and he's probably never gonna forget it. So those kind of things are really important to me as a brand person. That's what I would like to use my creative talent as, and money through an organization that engages everybody. So that's the give back for me is kind of what that is. Sir, and keeping rabbits alive.
Love them rabbits. Billy, what are you going to ask me? Stuff. Beautiful facial hair, by the way. Beautiful. Yeah. Do you not get the memo? Does anybody want to ask us any questions? Should we just get drunk and maybe naked? Yeah, great. This is San Fran.
I got a question for you, buddy.
Go.
So, we all know you're wildly, wildly talented, right?
Yes.
So, how do you find any, or I guess, what is the best way to navigate with such two large, massive companies, Intel and now Verizon 3 days, so maybe you can't answer that part of it yet. How do you find your creativity can cut through the size of an organization like that?
Okay, I can answer that. I'll answer it. So I was interviewed by 17 people for the job, which is great. I didn't even want the job. So the creative director of Wolf Olins, who had designed the brand, had phoned me up, and he knows me really well, and I now realize he was just playing me like an absolute fool. And he was like, hey, you know, you've done all these things in your career. You know, you've done advertising and design and digital and all. You know, it's all. You're trying to link it all together. I'm like, yeah, it's hard. He said, have you ever thought about being a client? I said, what the fuck did you call me? Which was like, you know, quite aggressive. He's from New York. He's fine. And he said, no, whoa, calm down. If you think about it, a good client is trying to piece all these pieces together, and it's not getting any easier. It's getting way more complex. He said, I think you'd make a great client. I need you to be a client. I need you to be my client. And I was like, okay. So he flew me to California. I had 17 interviews. I ended up with the old CEO of Intel, so Paul Ottolini. And so I sat down with Paul, very, very, very scared. I've never had a job before. This is my first ever job. And he goes, so why do you want to join Intel? And I'm just such a dick. I just went, I don't. And he went, oh, yeah. He said, let me rephrase that. We really need you to join Intel. I was like, wicked. We are going to get on so well. So he said, how big do you want the creative department? So you talk about, you know, their creativity and how to make it cut through and all the rest of it. And I said, I don't want the department. He said, no, you're the creative director. We only had one, Will.i.am, and we fired him. You're the creative director. I was like, how big's the department? I said, I don't want any. I want the whole fucking company. And he went, okay. So I don't have anyone who works for me. I work in every single division. So I think if you put creativity now in one single place, you know, the people who own the crayons or the color photocopier, as it used to be, it's like, no, it has to be the product design, the brand, the packaging, the retail, and something has to go through every single part. And at the moment, it's me. So, you know, I'm just a one-man idiot who's never had a job before, just sits in a meeting and goes, I've never done this before, but I'm sure that's really bad. And just gets away with it. A lot of swearing and a lot of English humor, it goes a long way. That's me.
All right, well then, I guess we'll thank you guys so much for being part of this, and I'm going to speak for all of us here that we had a blast, and it's been an absolute pleasure, so thank you so much.